Hi, Assalamualaikum and good morning to all my fellow members and my lecturer, Dr. Aniza in Macro Group D. Today we are from Group 6. I will introduce you about fiscal policy on Malaysian economy. Today, my name is Ahmad Nanik Rifhan bin Maslah. My matrix number is 280511. I will introduce you about fiscal policy. What is fiscal policy? Fiscal policy is the unemployment of government spending and taxation to impact the economy. When we use the fiscal policy is the government will foster and sustain our economic growth while also reducing unemployment. The function and the aim of fiscal policy came to prominence during the current global economic downturn. Government moved into stabilize the financial institutions, jumpstart development, and reduce the effects of the global financial on disadvantaged people. Furthermore, Keynesian economists thought that through the multiplier effect and expansionary fiscal policy could boost aggregate demand and production. So, as a result, this research focused on the relationship between fiscal policy and economic growth. In the next section, we take a wider perspective of this connection by situating economic development within the context of broader fiscal policy issues. Next.
Definition of fiscal policy in economy. Fiscal policy refers to the process of collecting and spending government revenue. A balanced fiscal policy aims to stimulate economic growth by reducing inflation or increase spending on various projects that act as stimuli to the economy. The government measures to improve national economy. They have to focus on boosting economic growth and structural change, driving innovation and technology adoption, and delivering high-quality infrastructure. Stimulation the provision of high-quality infrastructure to support and encourage economic activity will be bolstered. Effort will also be made to improve the business environment and address the issue of insufficient physical and digital infrastructure. As a result, the sector of economy should contribute to the expansion of the home economy through high-quality investment and improved productivity. The current impact of fiscal policy in Malaysia. The impact of fiscal stimulus package and different sectors of economy depends on the forward and backward relationship with other industries. In addition, the nature of industry will affect the impact of fiscal policy. For example, interest rate rise after government spending increase of tax cuts. Eventually, land price will fall, leading to the purchase of agricultural land. This means agricultural land production will increase. Fiscal policy strategy for economic recovery and growth. Fiscal measures implemented by several major economies are projected to help growth as is expected worldwide vaccine supply and distribution. Once the country economy recover and begin a growth path, fiscal consolidation measures will be undertaken in steps throughout the medium and long term as part of the fiscal policy from economic recovery and growth. This fiscal plan, according to the government, will ensure the medium long-term economic growth prospects remain robust in order to realize the national development agenda and share a vision of prosperity. The COVID-19 disease has triggered a global health crisis. The World Health Organization has reported that the virus has spread to the most countries in the world with more than 27 million infections and a total of more than 1 million deaths. The COVID-19 crisis has brought greater challenge to public financial management and increased fiscal risk exposure. The China will increase debt level and may temporarily disrupt the medium-term fiscal consolidation path.
A very good day, madam. I'm Sita. My matrix number is 277086. I'm going to present Chapter 3, Analysis of Study. I have two parts. The first part is trend of tax in Malaysia from year 2010 to 2020, and the second part is trend of government expenditure in Malaysia from year 2010 to 2020. The graph shows tax revenue in Malaysia from year 2010 to 2020. According to the graph, we can conclude that trend of tax revenue in Malaysia has been increased from year 2010 to 2020. There are factors that contribute to tax revenue in Malaysia. The three major factors are corporate income tax, which is tax on the profits of a corporation, and the second one is individual income tax, which is the tax levied on wages, salaries, dividends, interest and other income a person earns throughout the year. And the second major factor is petroleum income tax, which is a chargeable tax of assessment on the income of petroleum a person derived. The second part is about government expenditure in Malaysia. Government expenditure divided into two elements. First is operational expenditure and the second one is development expenditure. As we can see in the graph, the orange line represents the development expenditure while the blue line represents the operational expenditure. Operational expenditure is always higher than the development expenditure in government expenditure. Development expenditure refer to expenditure of the government which helps in economic development by increasing production and real income of the country. For example, in economic sector, social sector, safety sector, and general administrative. While operational expenditure is money spent on ongoing cost of running a business or organization such as wages and rent on premises. For example of operational expenditures are emoluments, transfer fees, service and supplies. That's all from me. Thank you. I will pass it to my next partner.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Juliza binti Zainal Abidin and my metric number is 278513. Now, I will continue the presentation with Chapter 3, 3.3 that is the impact of fiscal policy. Fiscal policy is the steps that taken by government by doing changes in government expenditure and taxation to solve the economic problem. There are two types of fiscal policy, that is expansionary fiscal policy and contractionary fiscal policy. Now I will explain about the impact of expansionary fiscal policy. The expansionary fiscal policy is the condition where government improve the government expenditure and lower the tax. This expansionary fiscal policy can increase the aggregate demand where when government cut the tax, the consumers' income will increase and their spending will increase too. This condition will lead AD to increase and can help economy to grow better. Next, the impact of contractionary fiscal policy. Contractionary fiscal policy was thus the reverse from expansionary fiscal policy, that is, increase the tax and lower the government expenditure. This contractionary fiscal policy will lead AD to shift to the left. The goal of contractionary fiscal policy is to reduce inflation by limiting the amount of active money circulating in economy. This condition will reduce aggregate expenditure and aggregate demand where when the price level is reduced, the aggregate demand will reduce too. However, this contractionary fiscal policy will affect CPU, that is Consumer Price Index too, and make the national income decrease. Next, the step to overcome the impact of fiscal policy. First step is government participate in private sector through establishment of large commercial enterprises. This action is to pursue an expansionary counter-cyclical fiscal policy. This counter-cyclical policy led to twin deficits, and to solve this twin deficit problem, government implemented comprehensive structural programs to reduce spending and reorder national objectives consistent with domestic resources availability and to ensure prudence in its recourse to external borrowing. The second step is introduce the new act, that is Akta Tanggungjawab Fiskal (FRA). The FRA will be formulated based on the best practice international fiscal responsibility (FRL) law. The FRA is one of the key elements in the fiscal reform initiative that will drive towards more disciplined and prudent public financial management. By taking this action, government was able to repay its external debt, thereby improving the nation's external debt profile.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Siti Azrin Binti Ahmad Nisa, matric number 277907. Today I'm going to conclude and give our recommendation. Firstly, the conclusion is a viable monetary approaches that offset development need with financial supportability is fundamental for Malaysia in accomplish solid macroeconomic and public monetary security. Accordingly, the financial position should be adaptable and work dependent on compelling assessment and consumption methodology to drive the cost of public turn-off event. Such a position especially significant as Malaysia then with the impact of uncommon COVID-19 pandemic that has impacted worldwide economy and exchange. It cannot be denied that fiscal policy is the best measure in helping nation economic development, but it still has unavoidable weaknesses, which is the first one is ineffective of tax cut, second, side impact of open spending, next is poor data, time lacking, budget deficit, other part of AD, crowding out, depending on multiplier impact, and monetary study, and the lastly is real business circle investigate. Next is a recommendation. The firstly is implement evidence-based policy EBP approaches, either in public policy proposing that policy decision should be based on informed by previously established objective evidence. The implement contract here is policy making based on ideology and common sense. Evidence-based policy has two core components. First, it need use a true research method such as randomized control trial (RCT) to test a hypothesis and construct an evidence. Second, the evidence that obtained from RCT need to be used that the intervention are effective. Next, our suggestion is improve fiscal risk management. Proposed best practice can be embraced in the monetary framework join the IMF Code on fiscal transparency, a sensible real and administrative design, institutional coordination similarly as the availability and assessment of information. In light of the standard of proficiency, responsibility and straightforwardness, the public authority will increase financial administration, drive to fortify monetary discipline toward producing supportable monetary development. Hence, the government must recognize and oversee monetary danger exhaustively to guarantee the managed stability of the country, financial position and level of obligation. So that's all for us. Thank you for listening.